You are blaming the wrong person for vehicles being so outrageously expensive. You're pointing all the blame at the dealer, and not that they're innocent, don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna tell you who's really responsible. That's right, guys. As angry as we all love to be at dealerships, and like I say, they're far from innocent in a lot of cases. For the most part, when it comes to overall pricing, if you think the dealerships are greedy, wait till you get to work with the manufacturer. The very best example of this is something I'm going to show you here in just a couple minutes, and I'm going to show you why dealerships can't totally change the whole pricing index, right? For those of you guys who kind of know how dealer pricing works, there's what's called INVOICE. We all know what MSRP is and INVOICE is. There's some secrets, holdback, whatever. Isn't really a secret at this point. But overall, rebates, interest rates, those all come from the manufacturer, not the individual dealer. It's important to remember, guys, dealerships have always been a volume-based business model, not necessarily a heavy profit per vehicle business model, right? Overall, as a dealership in general, you would rather sell 100 cars for the same profit as 30 cars because you get more customers, more volume. During this conversation, an important thing to keep in mind is that most dealerships are not a ginormous multi-billion-dollar corporation like the manufacturers are, right? Manufacturers have, like I say, they're multi-billion-dollar organizations, where dealerships are a very good business model in terms of, profits and things like that throughout history. Not necessarily as much anymore, but as a broad stroke, the manufacturers really have all the money and all the control. So this to me right here is truly the best example, right? Let's take a look at a 2023 Ram 1500 TRX. If you guys remember kind of the backstory, right? Dealers were charging over MSRP. The manufacturers come out, make these big stinks. We aren't going to let you do that. That's shady, bad business, blah, 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 blah. So kind of what I'm getting at. Now, we know there's some cost to doing business and things like that, but that's a 23, which was already a lot more expensive than, say, a 22, right? Or a 21. But they aren't going to let us shady dealerships mark these up $10,000. So what they'll do is raise the MSRP almost $11,000 and raise the invoice accordingly to make sure that we, the sketchy, independent, small dealerships, can't have that extra money, that the multi-billion-dollar corporations get the money instead. So I know the TRX is kind of a hard thing to talk about, so I want to show you just some regular trucks, right? This is an invoice and a configurator for manufacturer rebates on a 2024 really basic cheap Bighorn. So the rebates actually look a lot better than they normally are on this one because it's such a low price Bighorn compared to one that most people would be interested in, right? So in this example, it looks a little better than it really is, but this is what it is. Now, you'll notice I've whited out the dealership and the VIN number and things like that, yes. But let's talk about it, okay? Invoice on this truck, $52,614 with an MSRP of $55,180. A lot of people might be surprised to hear that because everybody thinks dealerships make, $20,000 per vehicle. Now, to be fully transparent, I put holdback everything on here, okay? So, invoice of $52,614, holdback is $15,096, true cost on the vehicle is $51,018. So, MSRP to the true cost. If you paid MSRP, no rebates, nothing, just raw, true cost to MSRP, it would be $4,162 in profit, which is just over 8%. Now, this particular truck, thankfully, has $5,500 in rebates. So, for the dealership to make $0, you would get about $10,000 off the truck. Now, I know that sounds pretty good, but that puts you at $45,000 for a pretty basic truck, right? And that's the big thing that everyone's talking about, is that these trucks should be a lot less than they are. Now, I know you're going to say, well, the dealerships would just lose money. Okay, well, how much money can you really realistically expect them to lose? $2,000, $3,000, $2 or $3,000 doesn't bring us to $35,000. And you can't expect a local business to lose $10-something thousand on all of their inventory. So let's jump over to a big heavy hitter, because I know there's going to be some guy that says, well, that's a cheap truck. Obviously, the rebates aren't as much as they are on a really expensive truck. Okay, here's a 3500 Mega Cab Cummins. One of the trucks that people believe is horrendously overpriced, the Laramie, okay? MSRP, $96,560, invoice $90,868. Hold back on this particular truck, $2,837 for a total cost of $88,031. Now, I know what you're thinking, when you subtract those there, that's $8,500, give or take, and sheer profit at MSRP, okay? Now, $8,500 is certainly a big chunk of change, but that's still not even 10%, right? If Nike made 10% on the items that they sell, they would be throwing up, right? Now, not that it's the same business model, because I know the next thing you guys are going to say. Well, dealerships make money from the factory when they sell vehicles and financing and things like that. And you're not wrong. There is factory money there if you sell enough vehicles to get there. But if you can't sell the vehicles because they're too expensive, there's not going to be any factory money. So like I say, the point isn't to say that dealerships don't have some control over some of the money. They certainly do. It's not to say that there's not other ways for them to make money, but whatever. That's not the point of the discussion. The point is that individual dealerships don't have the power to upheave the overall pricing in terms of MSRPs, new vehicle prices from the manufacturers. We can't do anything about that. We can control, 8%? Okay, we can control the 8% of what we're making on a vehicle. But that's not $20,000 or $30,000. And again, guys, I'm not trying to sit here and say that all dealerships are completely innocent. That's not the case at all. And a lot of them did not do themselves any favors whatsoever over the last several years with everything that was going on in COVID, right? That is not what I'm saying. I'm simply talking about the big price issues and the fact that those stem from the manufacturers. Believe me when I tell you that if we as dealerships did have the power to control the prices that much and still be in business, we would love for all these trucks out here to be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a top-of-the-line one, right? Do you know how many vehicles I would sell if you could buy a top-of-the-line heavy-duty for $45,000 or $50,000 like back in the day? Today, buddy, I would sell so many. That would be absolutely amazing for me. It's like we were talking about earlier, right? Dealer models have always been a volume industry. And the reason for that, especially as a salesperson, I'll kind of let you peek under the hood. I would much rather not make really any money off of one deal to you or whoever, and have you enjoy your experience and come back next time when your son needs a car, your daughter needs a car, it's your wife's turn for a car, your mom's looking for a car, your friend says, hey, I'm looking for a truck, where should I go? And you tell them to come see me. That is how I'm going to be successful as a salesperson. And more volume is more money from the factory. If you don't sell enough cars to get the money from the factory, then you're in a really tough spot. So when the affordability overall is the big problem, there's not a lot we can do to change that because we can't lose $15,000 on every vehicle and end up with no factory money. Because keep in mind at the end of the day, and it's not like this doesn't apply to the guys up at corporate, but for the most part, the guys that work at your local dealerships are regular people. We get up every day, put our socks on, put our underwear on, and go to work just like you, right? This is what we do for a living. And again, not everybody is innocent. I'm not trying to claim that in any way, shape, or form. I love and hate the fact that there's still sketchy car dealerships out there because it makes it easier when you do show up and talk to me, but it also makes the industry I work in have a much worse name. But it's like anything, right? Especially over the last few years, we've heard tons of bad things about police. Well, if you go up and just talk to 10 police officers, 9 of them are likely to be amazing. But you get the one who's a real turd, and that ruins the reputation for everybody, right? It's the same thing with every business. So like I say, guys, and you guys know, we're seeing dealer inventory pile up. Now, I could make a separate video about why piling inventory isn't necessarily really a sign of much, because dealerships have always had a lot of inventory, but aside from the last couple of years. But like I say, ultimately, we don't want to have a ton of inventory just sitting here, obviously. We want to be able to sell it. Here's the problem. That small percentage that we can control, okay, say we can control an extra $5,000. $5,000, well, it's a lot of money. That is representative of give or take $100 a month on a payment, okay? Well, if you can afford $500 and every new truck is $900, getting it to $800 doesn't change the fact that it's unattainable for a lot of people, right? So that's what I mean. Then you can't also expect us to discount it down to where it is attainable and just lose our tail on every vehicle. There has to be manufacturer help in order to do that, and right now the manufacturer ain't helping. And I'm sure I've rolled some of the footage of driving around. This isn't meant to pick on Ram by any means. I just happen to work at a Ram store, so I'm around it. I'm aware of how some of that stuff works a little bit more than some of the other brands, but it's the same story everywhere. The Nissan store over there has an outrageous amount of cars. Our Chrysler Jeep Dodge store is packed. This Hyundai store is packed. Honda's stuffed. Toyota's overloaded. It's the same thing for everybody, right? So again, guys, like I say, if you think that we're brutal to deal with, the dealerships, which, again, not that all dealerships are innocent, don't get me wrong, but if you think we're brutal, we're actually part of your community. I might see you at the grocery store. You think the guys up at the factory or people across the country or overseas could give a damn about you individually? No, they don't care. They care about their numbers, which inherently makes them somewhat care about you for their own pockets. But they don't actually give a damn about any of us as individuals. They barely care about their own dealerships. So like I say, guys, I just wanted to discuss the fact that the overall pricing issue that we have going on stems much deeper than just the dealership level. Sure, dealers can help control some of it. They can make you as good of a deal as they reasonably can. But they can't take 30-40% off of these vehicles. The only people that can do that are the people making them. And the people making them, so far, could give a damn less. So again, it's important to look at actions, not words. Of course, their words are that they're going to take care of us, in terms of we're not going to let you mark stuff up, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. Did they ever actually do anything about it? No, they just want to look good in the press so that someday they can sell manufacturer direct and make a bunch of extra money off of the consumer and not have to have us to worry about. So, like I say, whether you like the dealer business model, think it's outdated, whatever, at the end of the day, ultimately, it employs millions of people in America. And if you're an American, you should be a fan of American jobs, right? So like I say, there's obviously some things that need to be improved, can be improved, but the overall pricing itself is out of our hands for the most part. Like I say, we can help you out some, but we can't take $20,000, $30,000 off of the price of these things to get them back in line with where a lot of people believe they should be. And like I say, we would love to. I would sell so many vehicles if that were the case. So ultimately, guys, before you're, jumping on dealerships too hard, just kind of think about some of those bigger points. Who's really to blame here, and what can we do to try to solve it? But that's going to do it, guys. Leave a like, drop a comment, let me know if I'm right or wrong. Let me know if you want a video on some deeper involvements of the dealership, and drop a like, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.